All right, so I'm going to use my computer now like it's my sketchbook and like it's a computer. So the computer side of finding references is using Google image search. Just trying to shrink this a little bit. Man, it's picky. So now that I know the intention, I want to start thinking, okay, what things in my mind's eye in a Google image search communicate chilly but not icy, cold and wet, stormy, city elements, forest. Now, forest and city elements and apocalyptic, those are the only...
Yeah, I think there is a...
There might be.
It sounds right.
Sounds good. Here, I'm going to go ahead and type that in first. But if it's typical apocalyptic, like cliched apocalyptic, that's what I like using Google for. So it's showing, I didn't spell it right, but Google thinks it's a word, so that's nice. All right, so the problem is, yeah, there's lots of interesting things here, but most of them are not going to be usable. And that's because they're not the right size. They're not high enough resolution. So just like we did for our cartoon jumble, we go to Tools, and we limit the size. And for this, because we really do want to be able to print it really large, if we wanted to, we want it to be larger than 10 megapixels. So even larger than our cartoon jumble reference. And you know who likes the word apocalyptical? Tattoo artists, because they tagged a lot of their photos. But also some sunny beaches. But this might not be the best search term, right? So instead, I might look at this. I might look at things like city ruins, larger than 10 megapixels. And anything that looks kind of interesting.
Apocalyptical.
Yeah, it was in the dictionary. So anything that looks like it might be useful to kind of build around, like this house is kind of nice, but it's a little too strong a focal point. I'm just going to right-click and open link in new window. Now this is digital art. It's a wallpaper. It might be good for reference of professional work, but I don't want you to use someone else's digital work. We're building our own.
So these all become sort of stepping stones.
Exactly. Yeah, this will get us there. Some of them will just be inspiration. Others will become main components. So most of this is ruins, except for the one thing I found. Like this is a digital art fantasy landscape we can look at. So now, because I said open link in new tab, I'm going to make a folder on my desktop, and I'm going to label the folder Assignment 1 References. Right? And then what do I do to check? I always say View Image. So these are ruins from World War II. And this is such a cool image, but you see how grainy it is? It's an old film image. It's not the most useful, right? So if I used it, it would have to be really small. And so just be mindful of your quality. And I'll sometimes make notes on it. So I might call this useful, but far background. So I can't use that in the foreground. You know, it just doesn't have the resolution. Even though it's a lot of pixels, they're not high quality pixels. Okay, next one, view image. This is from St. Louis. Ah, nice and sharp. Good foreground debris. So that might be useful. Next image. So this is just inspiration, right? Here we have a digital composite that's been painted over. But it's got a very cliched, very apocalyptical one-point perspective road. But this might help me in terms of tone and lighting. So this I'm just going to call inspiration. Tonal inspiration. But this will not provide any element for me, because it'd be weird to have photos and then have things that are painted. It's not going to feel believable. We're not doing Mary Poppins, right? We're not mixing worlds yet. And then this digital artwork, I don't like it when it automatically downloads when you check the image, but let's see. So this has composited elements, but it relies mostly on vehicles and figures. But this could be useful inspiration too. But not something I can use because it's not believable like photos are to blend together. So let's do more search terms. So let's do forest. And I'm going to put forest city so that hopefully I get things kind of put together. Like this is Angkor Wat in Cambodia, which is a city that's been kind of taken over. And it's got people in it. I wouldn't use the people, but sadly it's like the sky's really been kind of blasted out. But, it might be useful. Absolutely, yeah, graveyard, any kind of setting, anything you don't expect to be moving as you look at it. So if I just look at forest, at these larger than 10 megapixel, the tricky thing about forest is you need it to be a forest that doesn't just take up the whole scene, right? I need to see the top of the trees and the edges of the trees. So you want it to all feel like one believable scene. So if you were to use black and white photos, that would mean you'd have to make every photo black and white, right? Because we don't have the time to add colors to photos. So they're not off limits, it does limit what you're able to do. So I have some nice kind of mountainsides. They don't look particularly cold. So maybe I want to look at particular forests because there's a lot here. So maybe the Northwest, like Seattle. Oh, I love this bent tree. So I'm getting a lot of nice ideas. I'm going to type in cold and just see what it gives me. I want forest, not first. And it's always going to search larger than 10 megapixels. Yep, that's ideal. The only time you would go lower is if you're just really not able to find anything that you want at that resolution. Oh, this is a nice one. Okay, and what I'm trying to show you, I'm going to move on to the next phase now, even though I'll probably find some more references on my own, is that you use these to inform your composition. But they don't become like a sticker sheet that then you put little things on, right? So we're not going to use any one of these as the background. We're going to puzzle piece them together. Okay, now actually that's pretty good. Just having those terms. I'm just looking up forest and cities, right? And now I'm going to start saving some of these. Check the image quality quick so I'm not disappointed later. That's beautiful. Very good. Our computers are fast, so they should load these images. That's nice quality. Good. People in the forest like large resolution photos, like posting them online, and generally know how to focus. So these are good things for digital artists. Now, I am not worried about whether these are copyrighted images or not. I'm assuming they are all copyrighted images. So the task, and this will be a question of the day that we deal with next class, is how do we make sure that we're not breaking the law by using these in our own work? And the way we make sure we're not breaking the law is to make sure we're transforming them into our own work and not overly relying on any one image that belongs to someone else. And we're not, in this class, using it for a class project, we are not breaking the law because we're using it for educational purposes, not for personal profit.
So even if you did use the exact image, it would override it?
Well, yeah, if you use this exact image and didn't do a good enough job,
Right.
but just turned it in as an educational product,
Because it's educational.
Yeah, there's no lawsuit against you under fair use for copyright. And that's a special educational clause to copyright law. Yeah, but then if you put it on social media to kind of promote your own business, that's no longer educational use. So we're going to try to make it so you can use it in any way you want, right? And kind of know the parameters for that. Oh, and this is a beautiful one. Yeah, because otherwise I could just say, okay, this person was foolish enough to make it high res and available online through a Google search. So I can print that out and say it's my own photo, but that's against the law. That's stealing intellectual property and copyrighted material. Even if they don't say it's copyrighted anywhere in particular. And this is actually on Wikipedia. So there's a chance, because Wikipedia tries to use public domain images, there's a chance if you track it down that they'll give the usage rights. So this is a Creative Commons license that this artist has put on it. So I can use it, but I have to attribute the work in a manner specified by the author. So I have to say that I got this image from that author if it's recognizable. And if I alter it, I also have to say that. So there are all these criteria to use it. So it's better just to transform it into your own work. That's what we're going to do. But that means that the person that took these photos, you see, I like this one, but it's terrible quality, so I'm not even going to use it. But that means that the person who took the photos wouldn't recognize that it's their own photo being used in your work. I like this driftwood. That's really the only reason I'm going to use that one. Some more driftwood.
So you can have more than 5 images.
Definitely. Oh, I wish this one was better quality. Breaks my heart. Not going to use that. Okay, now you can spend quite a long time searching, and you'll see why. And I'll probably continue my search. But for now, this is how you start sketching. Once you've found at least 5 images to get you started, now I open up that folder. Remember, I'm using my computer like a sketchbook and like a computer. And this is hard to do on a phone, but on a computer screen in the library, on a Mac, you can say view the icons. I have just enough time to do this. And this is what's called the design board. So if this was a studio and we were assigned to make background designs for the next Star Wars movie, and little comp artists, CGI background comps, they gave us these elements, and our whole studio would work on different designs. So what we would do is we would post inspirational reference on a design board in the studio, and that's kind of what this is, right? And now we would all design our own kind of version of it. So I'm looking at these. I'm now going to go to my sketch. And I'm going to start saying, how can I build a scene? I love this crazy tree, but I don't think that's going to work unless I do it in the vertical one. Otherwise, it's too strong an element because I don't have where it ends or really where it begins too well. Or I can just stick it into the corner. So let me do it with a slightly lighter color. So I'm going to put that crazy tree in here, just in this corner. And that's going to be element 1, bent tree. In some way that you know what reference you're thinking of. And then the house, I really like that kind of crazy house. I'm going to tuck it into this corner. And I do not need to draw very well. I just need to kind of show how much space it takes up. That's number 2, house ruin. Okay, then I want in the foreground, here I want this driftwood. So that's number 3. Driftwood. And you can even label them. If you have a lot of references, you can say, like, this is number 2, house ruin. And I'm planning to use this in one of my compositions, so I'll mark it with a color. This is driftwood, number 3. It's up to you how organized you want to get, but you need to be able to find